Hello, it's time to do another update on this first-person shooter thing. This is my proof of concept. It's pretty much where I want it to be. As you can see, there's a gun here. There's a guy there. If I walk into a certain range, he starts shooting at me. I think in the last video, the AI was very much like running in random directions. They follow a track now, so this guy's gonna start popping me. They're not the smartest AI, but there is AI. I also put these boxes in. That box looks really bad because I modeled it, and I'm not an artist. Uh, Also, the aim down sights is a lot smoother. I just changed the whole way I do it. The one thing is that it looks awkward because it's not like the way it's placed is not exact. Like I eyeballed this a little bit. I eyeballed it a lot. Um, and that's not great. You still can't crouch because it's not in the Unreal 4. That thing? The Unreal 4 first-person shooter template, and that's the only enemy. And I just made some extra area. It's got the spiral staircase, and oh wow, that's great. And that's it. And that's the whole proof of concept. That's really all I need. All I'm trying to do. I guess the only thing I can't do is switch weapons, but that should be not too hard to implement. Um, Although right now that weapon is kind of glued to this blueprint, so that might be a little weird. But that's really all I need for proof of concept. The thing I'm doing now is I'm looking in the assets store. You can see here, this is, what is it? Let's look up. This used to be this huge, crazy thing. Um, that is not the case anymore. We can do a different thing where we kind of help the first person camera along if we're not using it. If we're using the ADS camera, we can kind of move it along with the other one, and then when we switch out of ADS, we can set the relative position of the ADS camera back. That keeps us from like snapping the cameras. Like you would go from ADS to non-ADS, and you go back to the main first-person camera, and you'd find that by moving this other camera, which is this child, you have moved the first-person camera back, and it kind of snapped it back, and like you snap back like all the models, so the gun is turned all weird. I finally figured that out. That was a big accomplishment. It just kind of looks a little like fucking. This is not centered. I think for what I'm trying to do, I might live with it. The other thing I've been doing is looking at the asset store and seeing what I can. Is that what it's actually called? I think it's called the marketplace. I think it's called the Unreal 4 marketplace, not the asset store. The asset store is a Unity thing. But they've got stuff on there for making like shooting games because it's Unreal 4. So yeah, no, duh. But I actually already have one called the generic shooter template. I think it's called generic shooter template. So far, I've dug in a little bit, and the way they have that thing set up is so multiplayer focused. Like everything is about like replicating state on the server between the clients, and registering with the like the game manager and making sure everyone's in the all that stuff. It's like to try to unhook all that and make a single player thing out of it doesn't seem like it's really worth it. I will say that the aim down sights animation looks really nice though, so shit. The other thing I've looked at that seems really popular is there's something called an Iron Belly, the Iron Belly first-person shooter kit or animation set. There's a bunch of guns and there's a first-person shooter arms, and the animation look good. And you can look at the demo; it's like really nice. It's expensive, and I kind of have been leaning on towards making more of a sci-fi themed game, and all of those weapons that are in that kit are very like modern military. I might bite the bullet and just say I'd rather like have my game look nice than uh like get too hung up on the theme. Because like right now, I mean, this looks. Oh, I also bought this horse guy. He's also in the marketplace. That was interesting. I kind of understood how animation retargeting worked. In a previous video, I talked about animation retargeting, which as this thing where I added keyframes to an animation. That's not what that's a thing. That's a real thing. I actually did that. That is not what animation retargeting is. Animation retargeting is when you have a skeletal mesh with a similar skeleton to a different skeletal mesh, and you kind of map the skeletons together, and you're able to kind of use the animations from one on the other. That's retargeting. So you retarget the bones, so you can retarget the animation. It's not. That's what that does. So that's actually what I did here. This guy came off the marketplace with a very default Unreal 4 skeleton. So I was able to kind of give him the Unreal 4 mannequin skeleton, and then he just took all the same animations. And now instead of that mannequin, it's this thing, which is good. And then the other detail, the AI changed. It used to run around at random a lot. Let me see if I can pull up the AI, because the AI actually changed quite a bit. It used to be pretty terrible, and it's still pretty terrible, but it's a different terrible. Path following AI, this is it. So, okay. I'm covering a lot of stuff really quickly here, but so decorators are a thing that lets you control the flow of logic in these behavior trees, more so than just returning like failure on a task executing. And I made this custom one that checks if the check if target hit decorator, and what that does is, let's see if I can pull out the references that I need to pull out. Yeah, you perform this condition, which is the functions you override for all of these, and then you determine I guess is trigger entered. Trigger entered is a boolean that I set in the third person enemy class, and that is, if I look at this guy, I've got these two extra things that like these public blueprints. These public blueprints or public just variables in the blueprint itself. One of them is a spline, right? Yeah, move spline is public and is instance editable, and this is also public and instance editable. The enter trigger is this box. So when I enter this box, come on, click on the box. This thing is going to happen. This on actor begin mesh overlap. It will determine that I am in fact the first person character, and it'll actually print the string still, and it'll set this trigger entered to true. That will then change the behavior here so that the AI will start shooting at the player. So that was the big change. That doing that instance editable thing, like making public members and being able to like assign, kind of made me, as someone who's used to on Unity, kind of more comfortable with Unreal, because I was like, oh, before everything kind of existed in its own little shell, and now I'm able to reference and re-reference outside. So that's been good. So this is my proof of concept. It's not much, but I think it's going to be enough to kind of start going forward with whatever it is this thing turns into. And when it has a name and I have more to talk about, I will talk about it. Thank you for watching, and this is the stop recording button, I think.